Greetings viewers, Eric the Car Guy here with a special video for you today. Yes, it's not necessarily a repair video, but it does affect our future together now, doesn't it? I got myself a new vehicle. In my last ETCG1 video, which would have been Monday, I talked about some of the options that I was exploring as far as replacing the Subaru in my videos. I have reached a conclusion and made a purchase. And behind me, you will see nothing. Why? Because I'm building tension and suspense. But I just wanted to answer to a couple of questions that had come up in the comments. And one of those questions was, why did you sell the Subaru? I didn't necessarily want to sell the Subaru. I really liked that car. I like that car a lot, and that's no joke. I would buy another Subaru in a heartbeat. I really enjoyed the one I had, and I thought it was a darn good car. And the only thing it was lacking, in my opinion, was a stick shift. I would have liked to have a sunroof too, but I could live without that. I do like driving 4 cylinders with a stick shift. But that being said, the reason I sold it was because I got offered $3,000 for it. And I thought that was a pretty good price. In fact, I wasn't even going to ask that much for it originally. But the original owner had found himself in need of a vehicle, and the person that had gotten us in touch before said, hey, he's thinking about selling his car, you want it back? And that's what I got. So to me, to turn down that kind of money at that kind of time, in that time, it seemed wise. So he came, he got the car, he was happy, he paid for it and drove away. I had gotten $1,100 for that 1993 Acura Integra that I'd had, and I believe I spoke about this before. I didn't think there was really anything to be gained from that Integra. It was an older Integra, my brother's old Integra. It still needed some work. It was tired. I think it had over 300,000 miles, and well, it was definitely over 250,000 miles. It was quite a few miles on it, so it was getting a little wore out, a little tired. Could use some love, but you know, I've done plenty of Acura and Acura Integra videos. I've even done videos of that. Didn't really fit. So that was easy to let go of that one, and it didn't seem to work for us. However, I went out actually on 11/12/13. Yeah, I actually purchased this car a couple of days ago, and I've had a hard time keeping my mouth shut about it. It hasn't been easy just being quiet about this, not telling you, because I've been pretty excited about it since I got it. But rather than continuing on with the suspense, I've answered those questions. I hope that covers it. Why don't I bring the new girl in now, and why don't we get to know her a little better? All right, let's do this. Let's bring her inside. Have a look. What we have here is a 1979 Ford Fairmont. The Ford Fairmont started out in 1977. It is the first of the Fox body vehicles from Ford. And in fact, some of you may know why I chose it, and the fact that it's a Fox body may give that away. We'll talk about that in a minute. Now, some of you may be thinking, Eric, why would you buy a 1979 Ford Fairmont? Valid question. Because this is a Fox body vehicle. And what else is a Fox body made by Ford? That's right, the Ford Mustang. The Ford Mustang is a Fox body vehicle. And, believe it or not, everything that bolts onto a Fox body Mustang bolts onto this car. Are you starting to get the picture? So in other words, hopefully, by the time Eric the Car Guy is done with this car, we will have a Mustang in Fairmont clothing. Personally, not a huge fan of Mustangs. Don't have anything against them, it's just me driving a Mustang doesn't really fit. Me driving this, however, that goes like a Mustang, now that does fit. That's something actually I'm quite excited about. As you can see, I mean, this car is in good shape. I mean, this is a 1979, and let's face it, any of you that were around in 1979 or driving 1979 vehicles know that American quality wasn't really quite all there at that time, and it's probably the main reason why the Japs pretty much came in and took over. I mean, you can even see on the original paint how it's got thick spots, thin spots, that kind of thing. It was really kind of thrown together. But this was Ford's attempt to deal with a smaller vehicle and also get into a smaller or mid-sized car market. This car may seem large by today's standards, but by 1979 standards, it was almost a compact. And as I said, the quality during that time was not all that great, but I gotta tell you, driving this car gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling inside. I drove all the way to Portsmouth, Ohio to pick it up, which is about a 2.5-hour drive for me. And I got there, I found this car on the internet. I was actually looking for Fairmonts as a possible candidate for something that I wanted to work with, and this is what I found. It has low miles, it's only got 86,000 miles on it. I believe it was like a one owner, and the car lot that I bought it from an estate sale. I paid $2,900 for the car, and after taxes, title, and everything else, it ended up being a total of about $3,200, which honestly, I feel is a little bit high, but for what I got and for what I plan to do, it fits my needs perfectly. Honestly, I even like the color. I know that it's not exactly a popular color. What is it, like custard or something? Not real sure. But I like it. I like it a lot, in fact. I think it is exactly what I'm looking for. Now let's talk a little bit about my plans for this car. As I said, I want to basically turn this into a Mustang and Fairmont clothing. I'm not the first person to think of this. I'm not the first person aware of the fact that these are, you know, like I said, built on the same chassis as a Mustang. And quite literally, anything that will bolt onto a Mustang Fox body will bolt onto this car, which makes it kind of cool. Makes it a killer, what we call a sleeper. My intention are to pretty much leave the body and everything on the outside as stock as I could possibly keep it. I do intend to go through the suspension. I'm thinking probably a 1.5-inch drop to get our center of gravity down a little bit. But this is what's going to be fun about this car, is a lot of you have asked me to do modifications, upgrades on cars. You've been wanting that for a really long time. Honestly, I want to do that too. What I've always said is, like, we have to cover the basics before we can get into performance. But the more I think about it, the more I think we can cover those basics during the process of this build. In addition to that, another opportunity I think we have here is this stuff, with the exception of the ignition system, is all old school mechanical. And what few people realize is a lot of those electronic controls that are on cars and trucks today are really just electronic cousins of the mechanical counterparts that we have on this vehicle. I see so much potential in this, above and beyond anything I've done up to this point, and I'm very excited to bring to you a series of videos on this vehicle to show you exactly what can be done. And also, for those of you looking to do modifications in a build or something like this, I'm sure there's plenty of information that you'll be able to get from the series of videos that I plan to do for this. I'm going to preface by saying that I probably won't start rolling out videos of this type until I'd say sometime in 2014. So next year. We're going to have to wait till next year before we start really getting going with these videos. We're getting towards the end of this year. I've got some things to close out. Also, budget. I would love to drop a crate engine into this from Ford. It's a 302 that's been cammed and everything else, and it runs about $3,500. So just the engine alone is going to set me back. Transmission, I think, we're somewhere around $3,000 to $4,000 behind that. Then you talk about the rear end and the suspension. So I think Eric the Car Guy is going to have to be reaching out to some sponsors to see if we can possibly get them to help provide us some of the go-fast parts we need for this. Hint, hint. But that's where I want to go, because I think this is a prime candidate. It's not all rusted out. It's not junk. It's actually a pretty decent car. In fact, there's less rust up underneath this thing than there is on my 04 Element. That ought to tell you something. I think I'm going to call it Oliver. And for those of you British Top Gear fans, you might know why. Because for me, this car has quickly become my Oliver. On the 2.5-hour drive back from Portsmouth, I fell in love with the car. I liked the car when I first saw it, but just driving it and hanging out with it, it just has a feeling. It's my Oliver. I think they're about the same color. Now that we've talked about my intentions a little bit, why don't we get to know her a little bit better? Let's go out for a drive, and you can experience what it's like to be in the 1979 Ford Fairmont with Eric the Car Guy.
Let's go for a drive. She runs really good. Really good. love this car. I loved it from the moment that I started driving it. It has a feel to it. It has a smell to it. And I don't know what it is, but you can tell by the look on my face. This is my happy place. Every time I get in this car and start driving it, I feel awesome. I feel like I don't know, some old man driving to Florida. But it handles fine. I mean, the suspension feels a little tired. We're going to replace that anyway. But right now, it's a driving car. It's a car that I can get in and drive. I had enough confidence to bust out 2.5 hours when I first got into it. I mean, come on. And that says something. As far as like just cruising around in the country, or just cruising around on the highway. I mean, this thing kept up. It would go 70 miles an hour on the highway, no problem. It took a while to get there, but I don't feel like I'm in a hurry when I'm in this car. Yeah. Now, when we start bolting on the go fast parts and doing all that kind of stuff, well, that's going to be a little bit different. But for now, we just got ourselves a good driving car that we can play around with and talk about some of the old school controls that they used to have on stuff like this. It's freaking fantastic. It really is. I hope you're as happy as I am, because I gotta tell you, this is gonna be good. It's gonna be really good. It's a nice day too. I like it. My turnaround spot. Now, they did make a turbocharged 4-cylinder, which actually did pretty well. I think that was like 130 some horsepower from Ford. Considered that as an option briefly, but I'd have to run a stick shift and not... I thought about having a stick shift and how cool that would be in this car, but it would totally give it away. I want to leave it as stock looking as I possibly can. Probably what's going to give it away is, if I have my way, I'll put a roll cage in this, and that'll... Anybody who's looking is going to notice a roll cage, and they'll know something's up. But outside of that, I'm going to try to keep it as stock, grandpa looking as possible. That's the entire philosophy behind the sleeper. It doesn't look like anything. It's not supposed to attract attention. Also, I don't have to pay Mustang money when I do my insurance. I pay Fairmont money. So it's a total way to kind of game the system. And if I keep my exhaust note just right, it'll sound great when you get on it. But if you're just sitting there idling, you won't really notice something's up, other than it sounds like an old car. So that's going to be the fun part. Right now, this car is, to me, the greatest thing ever. Absolutely love driving it. Absolutely love being in it. This is my happy place. Happy place. But I'm going to bring you along with me for the ride. So you're stuck with it now. Some of you are happy, some of you might not be so happy, but I think at the end of the day, we'll get a lot of good videos out of this. A lot of good videos. Well, let's get this back to the shop, wrap all this up, and look forward to 2014. It's going to be awesome. Really awesome.
Well, I I am in love with that thing in every sense of the word. It gets me really excited about the future of Eric the Car Guy and the stuff that we're gonna do. This is an opportunity, I believe, and I think I scored with this one. I mean, it's a clean car, it's a straight car. We don't have to mess with a whole bunch of body work or any of that kind of stuff to get it to work. It's not all ratted out. It's pretty much stock, original, taken care of. Awesome. In the meantime, I could drive it. I can tinker with it. We'll make a few videos with that until I get the money together, or maybe some sponsors or something like that to help me out getting the parts that I'm gonna need in order to make this thing go fast. And just to recap, the plan is, as I said earlier, to make the thing a Mustang. To do that, man, there's so much available in the aftermarket for Mustangs, the Fox body Mustangs. It's just silly. So I don't think I'm gonna have too much trouble with that. In addition, by the time all is said and done, I'd like to drop a small block Ford V8 in there. I don't think I need a big block or anything. I think a small block would move this down the road just fine, and maybe scare some children. Hey, if you want to talk more about this, or if you have automotive questions, why don't you visit me over at EricTheCarGuy.com. Over there we have a plethora of options for you to find answers to your automotive questions, and that's where I suggest you go should you have them. There's a welcome video to tell you about all the things that are available there. I won't get into it now, but there will be a link in the description to a discussion about this video, so you can give your 2 cents. Tell me what you think. Tell me how you feel, what direction I should go, and you can use the comments below, of course. I do read those as well. I may not respond to all of them, but I do read to them. And if you wish to connect with me socially, I can be found on Google+, Facebook, and Twitter, and I close each of my videos with, be safe, have fun, and of course, stay dirty. I know I will.